And we're going to start our session with Jimmy Simmons of Monster Modelworks. And we have enjoyed looking at his products. He's going to explain how he does it.
Going to try to attempt. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate you sitting here to listen to me for a little bit. We love doing what we do. Back in 2010, when we first started, got my lasers, and I didn't want to do what every other kit manufacturer was doing. Even though I admired what they did, I wanted to be different. If you're going to take it from a hobby to a business, you want to be different. You want to offer something that's unique to the entire market. So I love brick and stone when I was modeling for my dad and building buildings for him. And one of the things that I think a lot of us came into issues with is plastic kind of looks like plastic. I love Downtown Deco's plaster work. But a lot of modelers I spoke with, they're heavy for modules and they can break easily. And so I said, I have to do something with wood, because everybody who models with wood. And so that's what I did. I actually took real images of brick and stone and wood products and 3D enhanced them within Photoshop. And my lasers actually have a 3D engraving setting. So a standard engrave is just a speed and a power, and it just makes a nice even engraving. A 3D engrave actually interprets that file and turns the power up and down within seconds on the fly to put in every nook and cranny that is on that image. So here's a quick little look at our shop. So that's what we did. And we've been very successful with it over the years, and I love seeing what the folks out there do with it. But we got two Epilogue lasers, which are made here in Golden, Colorado. We're in Colorado Springs. This is a laser room and production room, kind of a shot from the other side. We are now Larkspur Laser Art. We don't just do the models anymore. I work with a lot of businesses in town. I do a lot of business and personalized signage, promotional products, personalized gifts, photo engravings. So we're very busy on that side too, which is great. Getting the most use out of the machines that we have. The other two rooms we have for the business is my wife's office, which is all the shipping, receiving. We ship all over the world with the models. In fact, I just had a nice big shipment over to Japan, which it's always interesting to see what they're doing. And in our garage, it's where the messy work happens, the sanding, the painting. And I have a CNC machine now up in the garage for some other work that we do. Just sort of my wall of models. This isn't all of them, but this sits right above my head every day for inspiration and display. So when we get into my brick and stone, this is basswood. And so I had to create a way for modelers to be able to scratch build buildings that they want to build on their own easily. And so our first products we ever came out with were brick and stone sheets. We sell them, they're 12 inches long by either 6 inches high or 4 inches high. And the system is based on 3 different materials. So if you look at this little jail kit, this is our Brick City jail kit. We have a wall, which is a 1/8 thick piece of basswood. So that's the main structure of the building. We have a 1/8 by 1/8 piece of it's basically a dowel that's square, and we put brick on 2 sides of it. So you can see right here how that corner piece brings the 2 walls together on all 4 sides. And again, now over here, you can see up top here, there's no brick on this inside of this wall, which will be showing in the kit. So we use a 1/32 thick basswood sheet for folks to use as custom cornices, sills, any kind of decorative brick, pilasters, things like that they want to have more of a 3D look on the face of their buildings and make it easy for them to work with. One of the things that we also suggest in all of our stuff is that, unlike with a wood kit with, let's say, clapboard siding, those kits, when I build them, I paint and weather each wall, put the signage on the walls, and then when they're all done, assemble all 4 walls together. Well, with my products, I suggest you build it up like you see the jail here, and get all of the brick on, all the layers on, and then paint, because that painting helps to swell some of the seams. It helps to hide more of those seams in the brick on the corners. And as you can see, this brick wall is darker than the corner piece. I mean, every piece we produce can be slightly different in color only because of the actual wood itself and what the wood wants to do with the coloring. I guess it's like the teak or something that's in the wood that causes it to be darker. And so when you do this, you can get a nice comprehensive building. And so the fun part is, a lot of folks, we try to cater to a beginner who is never scratch built and doesn't feel that they have the sense to be able to do it. So we took our scratch building techniques and put it right into our kits. So hence, if you can build one of our kits, you follow those same principles if you buy the scratch building materials, and you can get very similar results building anything you sort of want. And so here's an example of that building completed. You can see the seams and the corners are very well blended. The brick looks fairly realistic with all the nooks and crannies that are engraved with the stone. And all of our kits come with all the parts, the windows, doors. We try to model it exactly as the original model that we modeled it from. This was a jail in I believe it's San Robles, somewhere up in California, where Jesse James actually was noted to be hiding in those hills, and they figured that he might have spent a few nights in this actual jail. So it was a fun little teeny build. And one thing you'll see on a lot of my slides is we're trying to have a spring sale. So site-wide, no coupon needed, 20% off on everything until the 18th of this month. One thing I love seeing is when customers send me photos of what they've done with our brick or stone. So I'm not sure if some of you folks have heard of Carl Osolinsky. He's an HO scale modeler. He's really talented with the works that he does. This is one of his buildings where he uses our brick sheets and we have all kinds of different details, from terracotta coping to brick coping for the tops of brick buildings, things like that. Here's another one of Carl's works. I mean, it just amazes me that he did this burnt out building. He actually cut individual bricks off my wood sheets and put them down as piles down with these guys. It's just amazing to see it. And you can see, because we don't just draw lines on the computer to make up mortar lines and then just send the engraver on to just do a basic engraving. That 3D engrave really shows through, and you can see a painted building like this when it's done. It's so spectacular. And he just used craft store paints. That's all he uses. And that's all I really use. Sometimes I use some powders and things, but it's wood. So it's really the basics of modeling that we're used to. So I just wanted to point out that we do N scale with almost everything. Not all our kits are all scales, but most of all of our scratch building materials are all scales: N, HO, S, and O scales. Again, the main part of it is having that 1/8 thick brick sheet. Some folks use my 1/32 sheets. They feel it's easier to cut. we use the 1/32 brick sheet. You're obviously going to have to glue that to some kind of a supporting piece. Sometimes they use, gator board or something a little bit thicker that's going to give support to the overall building. And then the corner pieces, in the scratch building side of things, you get 2 feet of corners in a little pack, so you get plenty to work with. We've got old brick, our new messy mortar brick. We have a 5-row aged American brick, a 7-row aged American brick, concrete block. We have a block stone, quarried stone, mixed cut stone, dry stack stone. We do a lot of road materials using the different laser boards that are out there. They're really easy to work with and glue down. Damaged asphalt, cracked and plain concrete, herringbone, cobblestone, which in that case, it's actually set stone. Old cobblestone, there's a mixed cobblestone. We have some sidewalk kits that all go together with those, in some of the different scales. And as showing some examples, here's our concrete block before it's painted. You can see the corner pieces, how they're set up with them when you build. Here's one that's painted down here. Here is the 5-row American Bond aged. It's just slightly aged, I had a clean brick, really brand new looking brick, and I didn't really care for it, so I haven't re-released it. I'm actually working on a new one that had a lot of requests for folks wanting just that brand new building look for a brick. Over here, that's our old brick, and we also offer lots of different variants of security bars that you can buy for windows and doors and things. Let's see some more stuff here. This is some of our cracked and plain concrete. One of our customers, cut the pieces instead of leaving it as a sheet and started intermingling them how they wanted it to lay out. Herringbone, kind of a close-up down here. In this close-up of an HO scale herringbone, you can just see all those little teeny divots and nicks that 3D engraving does, just give that little bit of realism. Tie plates. I love them as track clutter. We have them in HOS and O scale. These happen to be HO scale ones in this photo. But we have a lot of modelers that model track, and these are set up to go underneath the rails on top of the ties, and the holes, fit the nails and everything. And it's really interesting to see when someone buys a few thousand of these to lay their own track and model it. This is what that cracked concrete looks like when it comes up here plain unpainted. You can cut it up or just use it as sheets and put them together. Down here is just another example of it being painted with basic paints. Again, nothing special. We have all instructions and so forth that we can offer folks. This is some mixed cut stone that I cut down the sheets that interlock, and I just sort of cut some basswood 1/16 inch and sanded the edges and painted them as a concrete color and laid it across the top. Isn't anything as a kit, it was just more of a fun scratch build. This is some of our cobblestone or set stone, and I put an indent into the plastic there that it was sitting on, and pushed the laser board down into it and made it look like it was sagging or bulging in different areas, just to show the versatility of the laser board. Here's a unfinished quarried stone sort of look. I haven't weathered it or anything yet, but just sort of painted it. There's the damaged concrete up on the top right here. Damaged asphalt. Those all interlock, so you can see all the edges are cut, all the way around. So actually, right about here is a seam of 2 sheets that are being put together. So one of the things I tried to do is, I used to go see a lot of layouts when I was younger, and the street work, folks would just have a straight line seam and they'd butt 2 pieces up against each other, and the seam was very visible. So I tried to have a lot of my road materials where the seam could be hidden, and I'll show you some more of that in a little bit. This is some block stone painted a couple different ways. One looking more like granite, one looking more like sandstone. Here's some of that other cobblestone. This is an old cobblestone up top here. This is a mixed cobblestone, a roadway product. This is one of our sidewalk products that we have. We have it in 10 foot wide sidewalk pieces, and these are 5 foot scale wide sidewalk pieces, depending. And then there's the corner piece that can take you around a corner and up and down the street. This photo over here just shows we sell all kinds of lentils, different sizes and shapes that to go above different sides of the windows, as well as we sell sills, brick sills, just to get that little 3D sort of pop off the building. A lot of fronts of buildings use those, and sides of buildings don't have them showing because they didn't want to spend the money. Wood products. So we have split log down here in the bottom right. You can see all of the different wood grain and the knot holes and so forth. We actually sell, this is really neat, we sell these blank split log siding kits that have all of the ends cut like this. So you actually build up a building with a peak in it, but there's no windows or doors cut out of it. So you can buy all the blanks, cut your own windows and door openings in them, and then put a roof on it to design your own cabins or little old split log buildings. Up top here is it's basically a shingle siding. Some folks have used it as roofing. I didn't make it as roofing. It's on a 1/16 piece of basswood, so it's really made for the sides of buildings. And then you can see we do a board by board wood siding, and you can see all the wood grain, the knots that are already engraved into it. So using some some powders. This is, I think, also I used with some weathered brown weathering powder from Bragdon's with a little bit of alcohol in it, and rubbed it over the wood, and you get a nice looking wood siding without having to do all your own knot holes and wood grain and so forth. Again, here's our old brick, showing you with some of our security bars. We do fire escapes, things like that. Another way to see the brick painted a little bit more detail in this photo here. I wanted to show, these are some of our kits, but this is the dry stack stone on, usually I was using an India ink and alcohol or something with a black ink first to get all into the dark areas to make it look like shading, and then just dry brushing grays and whites over the top of that, painting a few individual stones. And then I've always said everything looks great with Bragdon's weathered brown weathering powder. And you can see I use it a lot to just give that little bit of weathered look to a building. And then again, a block stone. This is the backside of the Placerville garage kit that we have. I actually painted it a different color just to show folks, you paint that stone in a different color and it looks like a different type of stone. And this up here is one of our newest bricks, which is called Messy Mortar, where the mortar is really just running out, and it's a lot of folks call it more of a Texas looking brick. But again, having all different textures is great to change up your layouts. We sell what we call cornice kits. And so here's an example I wanted you to see. It's the same kit. And these kits are engraved on 1/32 basswood. And there's 4 pieces to it. So this bottom layer actually goes all the way to the top. It's only engraved on the bottom part. Part number 2 sits on top of that. Part number 3 is just this 4 brick row, and then there's a 2 brick row across the top. So it comes as a kit, and you can buy multiple kits and put them together, and go along the whole front of the building, the side of the building, whatever you like. But as you can see, if all you wanted in the building was a cornice that went around the building that was a 4 brick and a 2 brick row, you can just buy our 1/32 sheets and cut a 4 brick row, cut a 2 brick row, and glue it on top of the 1/8 sheet, then paint it all up, and you've got those details that really tend to pop out. Back to some road work. So when I talk about seams, you can see here, this is our cobblestone or set stone. And you can see all the seams are cut all the way around. So you can add pieces, whether go long or go wide, whether you're using it for the interior of a building or a street. And once it gets painted, you follow that seam up and it pretty much disappears. So that's really something that there's a lot of work drawing all those and getting all that to fit properly. But once it's done, it's real nice. Our herringbone does the same thing. It has all little interlocking pieces all the way around on all 4 sides. So it gives you the ability to go in any direction you want with them. These are O-scale tie plates. They're slightly bigger. I don't do the rail anchors. I was going to at one point, but I have them drawn, just that no one really wanted to go into that kind of detail, putting the rail anchors on there. So again, the tie plates, they're a great track clutter sort of item. For this is an N scale 130-foot turntable. It's the Walther's turntable, and this is just an insert. So it comes in 2 pieces. It's split down the middle. You can glue it into that turntable, paint it up, and give yourself some kind of a basically some enhancements to the turntable. This is the only size we're doing right now. It's I guess most of it is for the HO narrow gauge modelers who use that turntable on their layouts. I can do it in other sizes. I just haven't had folks pounding down my door for larger ones. So keep that in mind. We have no problem working with some of that stuff. It's really nice looking when it's finished painted. This is just how it happens to come on the laser board. And then just some examples of our kits. Something we like to do is we don't want to give you all of the details parts that a lot of kit manufacturers do with the castings. One reason is that I always felt, and this is the funniest thing, when one of my kits I put out, it was my first, what we call our starter structure kits. You got to choose the type of brick you wanted. You got to choose the cornice top, whether it was round or flat. You got to choose the storefront, whether it was a single or a double door storefront. And everyone bought the kit exactly the way I built it up. And they ordered it that way. And it was, to me, it was weird because I figured people would buy all different bricks for it and do something different. But people, a lot of the newer modelers, they'll build what they see that the kit's supposed to look like. So I decided not to incorporate all these little detail parts because then everybody's going to have the same seam on their layout. So I wanted people to think outside the box, give them better details on the building, and then start adding your own detail parts. So in these kind of kits, we actually say, hey, what do you want on the cornice up here on this concrete part or on this part of the building here? Name it what you want. Over the years, we've had so many people name these buildings different ways in honoring different folks, or we've had ones call it the Gazette and so forth. And depending on what town or where you're modeling, gives you the ability to customize that as part of the kit and part of the price with these kits. This is, you can see we do details with these lentils over these freight doors. A lot of our kits come with stencils. So this is just a stencil of the building name, and you paint it up you paint behind it black and you lay the stencil down, and as whether you want to make it a ghost sign or not, you can do things like that. This is the front of the Placerville garage that I painted. I was attempting more of a sandstone. It turned out a bit pinky than I wanted it to, but still looks really good. It's been a popular kit. We also do the Placerville store. I haven't put them out as kits, but I have the drawings, and I've sent just the walls of the Placerville school and the Placerville church wall parts that I've done for folks who are really into putting a whole Placerville town together. This is actually, I'm not sure if a lot of you have heard it. I never watched the show, but It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This building, both these buildings are side by side in LA, and this building is in a lot of different movies and TV shows. And this is actually the front entrance to Patty's Irish Pub on It's Sunny in Philadelphia. They show outside shots of it all done up. I didn't know that until one of my customers who lives in LA said, "Hey, you know that building is out there." And our saloon kit, which is very popular, using the split log siding. They're all, again, all based on real buildings. I know a lot of S-scalers might know Jake Johnson. He helped to draw with the drawings of this historical saloon that was redone. I forget where. I'd have to look at my kit notes. I have it on the kit itself. But yeah, so again, you can see all of the details that the 3D engraving does on the walls, and that's sort of where we come from, is trying to just give you the details, give you some good stuff. Again, Larkspur Laser Art's the better website to go to. There's a link that there's categories across the top of the page. There's one that says Monster Model Works. You drop that down, it gives you all the different categories and scales and items to look at as we look to gain new clients and find new ways and new products to put out there. We're always looking for suggestions. So feel free to email and send, items that you think would make a good product, because that's part of how we try to give back to the modeling community, is not just put anything out, but put out what people are looking for and what people are wanting to have. So that's about the extent of my presentation.
All right, Jimmy, we have a couple of questions for you. Thank you for your presentation and for stopping share, but let me read a couple of these questions for you just to make it easy. From Bill Hobbs. Jimmy, are you going to continue to offer the epoxy impregnated paper material? I like that when I'm going to mount it on plastic sheet.
As the brick sheets, you mean?
He doesn't clarify, so I'm going to leave it to you.
Well,
how do you?
Well, I'm going to assume it was, because when we had shut down for a short period of time, and I was going to leave the business and try to sell the business, and when the folks who wanted to potentially buy the business realized that we were a full-time operation. So when I came back, and there's still items I haven't re-released, and I'm trying to get a better engrave on that laser board, because we love using the laser board. And so that is something that right now, who asked the pick? Bill Hobbs. Bill, you can always email me and say, hey, because it's the same price as the wood sheets. I mean, it gets the laser time and so forth that drives the price mainly. So if you ever wanted one of the brick sheets on that 15 thousandths laser board, send me an email. I'll be happy to run some on there for you. I'm just not ready to release it for everybody to just buy. Again, it's one of those things. I'm very picky about certain items when they go out. I want to make sure it's top notch.
So Jimmy, here's your next question. Do you recommend applying a primer to seal the wood prior to applying a water-based craft paint?
Good question. I do not. I don't do it myself. You know, when you engrave into wood like this, you're opening up the face of it. I make sure my building is braced properly and built properly first. And then I do not water down my craft store acrylic paint. I usually use some kind of a brick color, a heritage brick, or you know, any of them work. I don't water them down, and I put a real super fast light first coat on, which allows it to just sort of absorb itself. Then I would either give it a full coat of acrylic paint after that. What I like to do is I take Bragdon's used brick powder, weathering powder, and I take a stipple brush and I dip it in alcohol, I dip it in the powder, and I apply it to the brick on top of that acrylic paint, that first light acrylic paint coat. And I use the powder almost like a paint. And then when it's dry, I use a stiff brush to brush off anything that is, you know, sort of filled the holes. And then I hit it with some hairspray to seal it so that my mortar doesn't turn pink. But the easiest way for folks is to just use the acrylic paints. So once you get a base coat of that brick color, I go back over that with yellows, with terracotta type colors, with some blacks, to give the brick different definition, before I then add my mortar on there. So you don't have to prime it. If it makes you feel better about doing it, you certainly can.
All right, here's the next question, Jimmy. What materials and process do you use for modeling brick mortar?
Okay, great question. My main way of doing it, again, Joel Bragdon and his lime white mortar product, it is not like a weathering powder. It's very thick. What I do is I fill a little medicine cup up with alcohol, and I like to use the higher percentage. I either get a 99% alcohol from Amazon, little bottles, not that expensive, and it goes a long way. Or I'll just use the standard 91% you get in the store. And I put just a little bit of powder in that, mix it around, and I apply it to my brick like you would India ink, right? So usually you load a brush up and you tap it and let it sort of spread around. Well, I just go right around the building, and I'll do a test first in the back side. I'll put a little powder with the alcohol. I'll dab it on one of the corners, and you won't see the mortar lines until it dries. So I hit it with a hair dryer, and I can see if the mortar lines are too white, I need to add a little more alcohol. And if they're too just, not really there, I can add a little more powder. I prefer to have it a little bit less and go around the second time. In some of the buildings, you can see mortar lines more in one place than another. That's the look I like to see, because you see that in real life. The other way you can do is you can go use DAPS. It's basically the wall spackle, and rub it in with your thumb until it rubs off the front of the brick and it fills all the mortar lines, and it looks really good. And the reason I do one of the two of those, it's after I use all those paints, because when I'm adding yellows and grays and terracotta and black, it's all very stark looking. So when you put the mortar on top, it all sort of coats and mellows all that out and blends it so that nothing is just staring at you straight in the face, bright yellows or blacks. It's all just nice and even.
All right, Jimmy, I've got one last question here before I turn it over to Pete. But here's a question from Keith Stamper. Do you offer flats? I have a section on my layout with about a 2-inch distance from the dirt road to the wall. I would like to set up a row of buildings with a sidewalk along the front facing the sidewalk.
We do have a fairly large selection of building flats in different thicknesses. So the answer to that question is yes. Flats are a fun build. We know there's not a lot of space on layouts these days. So yes, in our kit section, you'll see a lot of different flat buildings.
Very good. All right, Jimmy. Thank you